Next up is from Zander Tanigawa with Steven Spielberg's argument about Netflix streaming service shouldn't be considered nominated at the Oscars, but in the Emmys instead. With a big surprise, Spielberg made an appearance to Apple's event to presenting their own streaming service called Apple TV Plus. Is Spielberg giving mixed messages to streaming service that he hates Netflix but loves Apple, or is this all just a money deal from Apple to help give people attention for their products since other celebrities came on stage about the future with Apple TV Plus?
All right, there's so much here to unpack. So much here to unpack. Let's start with, let me just start off the surface with the Spielberg thing. Spielberg does not hate Netflix. There's this thing going around, oh, Spielberg hates Netflix. No, Spielberg does not hate Netflix.
No.
Spielberg's only argument has ever been, and you can agree or disagree with it, but he makes a point. His only argument has ever been that Netflix is a television medium. And just like when CBS in the past makes a movie for television, it then goes into the Emmys because it's for television. Spielberg's argument is not that he hates Netflix or that Netflix is bad. He has simply made the case that, like any movie made for television, Netflix movies should also qualify for Emmy honors instead of Oscar honors, because every other television body and outlet that has made movies, their movies get nominated for television movie awards. It's a different thing. Now, you can agree or disagree with Spielberg, but you have to admit he has a point, whether you agree or disagree. But it's not about him hating that. He doesn't hate Netflix. He doesn't hate streaming services. He just thinks one is definitively television, one is theatrical. So that's always been his argument. And we could debate that another time. But the real issue here is just the overall topic here. And that is Apple TV Plus, which, how is Disney letting them get away with that? Number one, like, we've got Disney Plus, and so, oh, Apple, how original. Apple TV Plus. Oh, yeah, no one's done that in the last 5 minutes. Anyway, so I don't get that, but whatever. So Apple makes their big pitch, Rob. They put out their big thing yesterday, and they had, Tim Cook out on stage. They brought out a bunch of talent, everybody from Jason Momoa, Jennifer Aniston, Steve Carell. They had video messages from J.J. Abrams. Steven Spielberg came out on stage to talk about this. What was it called again? Fantastic. No, what was it? The name of the magazine. It used to be the name of the magazine. Fantastic Journey or Fantastic whatever. The name of his new anthology show.
Oh, Amazing Stories, dude.
Amazing Stories. Thank you.
Amazing Stories. I was like, what?
So he talked Amazing Stories and all this kind of stuff. That was a magazine.
You're correct.
Yeah. So he's based the title on the fact that he used to love reading that magazine, so he called his show that. And they did all these big presentations to hearken the launch of, I keep wanting to say Disney Plus, of Apple TV Plus, right? Interesting note, there was a bunch of people talking in general about this, about yet another paid streaming service. There was an interesting quote in CNN from a research facility. And what the basic quote was this: while Apple may introduce a bigger roster of original content than Amazon and Netflix did during their respective launches, the streaming market has arguably already reached a level of saturation and consumer fatigue in the United States, said Colin Gillis, analyst at Chatham Road Partners. Apple, he said, is late to the party. Apple is late to the party. Rob, I'll tell you what, I'm going to be honest with you. Now, I'm an Apple guy. I mean, I don't use iPhones anymore. I transitioned to Android, and I'm very happy with Android. But when it comes, I still got my MacBook right here. I've used iMacs and I've used Mac Pros, and I'm a big fan of Apple products and all that kind of stuff. But I'll be honest with you. I watched this presentation yesterday, and the biggest word for me was underwhelmed. I was really underwhelmed. It had kind of a, instead of what you're used to seeing at these Apple keynotes, revolutionary things, right? Their Apple TV Plus thing felt more like a us too kind of thing. Whereas everything else with Apple is always revolutionary. We're launching this and we're introducing this and blah, blah. And then comes along us too, kind of mentality. And it almost feels like to me, like, I'm sorry, I was hearing about, I love Spielberg. To me, he's the greatest filmmaker of all time. But I didn't get excited hearing him talk about that show. I love Steve Carell, Jennifer Aniston, all that kind of stuff, but they're talking about this morning show show, and I'm like, okay, I'm not getting excited about that. Jason Momoa comes out to talk about this new show Scene, and it sounds interesting, but nothing that got the juices flowing. It's like, I almost feel like they should have waited to do this big launch when they actually had 5-minute sizzles for each of the shows that could have generated enthusiasm, because I watched this as an Apple guy, as a content guy, and I went, meh. And it totally had that Me Too kind of feel, or Us As Well kind of feel. And then I read these other reports saying, this market's already saturated. Dude, we've got Netflix, we've got Hulu, we got Amazon Prime, we got Disney Plus coming. We've got DC and Warner Brothers have multiple streaming things. Comcast has already said that them and Universal are going to be getting into the stream, because Comcast has a lot of content under their libraries. They're going to be launching that. Everybody's going to be doing these things, and we're getting to the point that it's all more expensive than cable ever was. Rob, look, you saw this thing.
Yep.
Is this still a good idea from Apple? Is it too late? Are people underestimating how much of a market there can be for streaming? Were you excited about it? Your thoughts on this whole Apple TV Plus announcement?
Well, I think you put it quite succinctly. I mean, the only thing that gets people excited about new content services or new streaming services is the content. Disney Plus is launching with The Mandalorian. I mean, they're launching with the first live-action Star Wars television show. Now, I don't care what else is on that streaming service. They had me at hello. They had me at Mandalorian armor that someone's going to be, if Pedro Pascal just wanders around in Boba Fett armor in some dusty outer rim colony, I'd watch that shit for an hour every week. I mean, I just would if he talks to people in Huttese or something. Now,
Huttese.
I'm watching this, and I'm like, first of all, Amazing Stories was not, for those of you who don't remember, when Amazing Stories was going to be on TV, it was going to be this great, here from Steven Spielberg with a theme song by John Williams. It was a very underwhelming show that, while it did have great world-class filmmakers working on it, it was, I think, for the most part, disappointing because it never lived up to what it was supposed to be. So a remake of Amazing Stories, look, I've already got Jordan Peele's The Twilight Zone, and I'm going to be standing there with my arms crossed, tapping my feet. And if it doesn't blow me away, the last Twilight Zone had a host that I loved, and it wasn't necessarily blowing anybody away either. And we'll wait and see. It's all about the kind of content they can provide. They can bring you as many celebrities. Look, we all saw that photograph from Universal's Dark Universe.
Yeah.
Johnny Depp, Russell Crowe. That looked cool too. And then we saw one movie and it was dead. So I would wait. I think you're right. I think it was premature. If you're going to announce shows, make 5 or 10 pilots and show us those sizzles, because otherwise that sounds great, guys. And I'm eternally optimistic about this stuff. I'm, like you said, an Apple guy. I'm talking to you on my Apple iMac Pro, which I love, that I edit on. And I love Apple products. I always have since I got my first Mac in 85 or something like that. And I was like watching this going, you guys, it's vaporware right now. It isn't anything. I mean, yeah, we'll get an Amazing Stories. Okay. But I'd rather, if you told me that you were going to put Brian Fuller's 4th season of Hannibal, I'd be like, yeah, all right,
Yeah, that would have got a lot of people's attention too.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Or I'm like, Amazing Stories is an anthology show that's reliant upon many different stories and many different filmmakers. And the first time I saw it, it was underwhelming. So I understand Steven Spielberg's great, but I don't know, man. I'm with you.
The other big question that comes up here that was brought up in that article is that, look, we are paying for Netflix. I am a big Hulu fan. Hulu only has about 25% of the subscriber base that Netflix does, but I am actually a big fan of Hulu. I like that service very, very much. I'm an Amazon Prime guy. I'm looking at getting the Warner Brothers streaming service, but I don't know, Ashley, when you're looking at this now, this new landscape with all these services, and Disney Plus is coming, and who's not getting Disney Plus with all the Marvel library, the Star Wars library, the Pixar library, upcoming new Marvel MCU TV shows, Star Wars shows, blah, blah, blah. So everybody's getting that. Mm-hmm. Does it start to feel for us, Ash, like enough's enough? Like, is there room for more of these? Like, what's your first thought when you look at this?
My first thought is like, oh my God, another one. But I think you're right. It's about the content. Like first I had Netflix and then I realized that I almost had to get Hulu because I wanted to watch like Handmaid's Tale, I think was on there at the time, or Search Party, and then Broad City, and then Pen 15. And then all of these shows started popping up. And I was like, well, damn, I have to get Hulu now. And if you think about it, like the money, like I don't have cable anymore. And so I used to be paying, I don't even know, maybe like 60, 80 bucks a month for that. So now I'm only paying 10 bucks a month for Netflix and then like $8 a month for Hulu. So as long as I keep it under $100 a month, I don't really care how many I have, but it does get, I wish everyone kind of wishes that they had like a packet that would tell you what shows are on what, because it's just the searching that's the pain in the ass. Like just like trying to find what show is on where. It's like, I hate that.
It's a great point. Because like if I want to watch The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which everybody should be watching that show because it's crazy good, you got to have Amazon Prime.
Right.
If I want to watch, what's one of the big Netflix ones? If I want to watch Mindhunter, well, then I got to have Netflix. If I want to watch Runaways, then I got to have Hulu. If I want to watch this, if I want to watch Ray Donovan, I got to have, what is it, Showtime?
Showtime.
I got to have Showtime. If I want to watch this, I got to have Stars. If I want to watch Titans, I have to have the WB thing. If I want to watch, and it's just,
it's exhausting.
Getting it, and on top of all those, like somebody like me, I cut cable like 8 years ago, but I do have YouTube TV, so I can watch. So I can watch cable, but I pay $35 a month for that.
Yeah,
which is great. But then it starts to, this a la carte thing starts to add up, and I don't know, is Apple too late? Are they late to the party? Guys, I want to know your opinion on that. This Apple announcement, whether you thought it was good or bad, are they too late, or are they on time? And this can absolutely work for them. Jump down to the comment section below and let me know what you think.